Hello. I hope I've been able to go live this time because it just kicked me out. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Facebook just kicked me out. And today we're making the machine bag by Mrs. H. And I would like to thank every single person that's joining us today. And I hope the network does not kick me out again. Message reads, oh, hello, I'm back. Yes, the internet was being funny for a few minutes, I think, but I think we're back now. So like I was saying, we're making the machine bag pattern by Mrs. H. And I would like to say thank you to every single person that has joined us. And thank you to Mrs. H for making this possible as well and for facilitating this event as well. So I stopped at saying we're going to put the patterns together, and if you don't like printing out paper as like I do, you can just print out pages 11 to 13, which are the main pieces, and all the others you can rotary cut. So which is what I'm going to do today. And once we've done that, I've made out my little list A to E that contains all the different the pattern pieces, the cutting out of the pieces, and then what I need to cut out at the top, so which is the outer, the lining, interfacing, and all that. So we'll get to that later. And I've made my little labels as well. So once I cut them all out and once they're all together, I can just pin the labels on as well. So we're going to go right ahead now, and we're going to cut out the pattern. What I normally do is I have a redundant rotary cutter. It's a nice small one. So any straight line I just cut with a ruler and the rotary cutter. I just find it a lot easier doing it this way. And anything that's curved, I use a pair of scissors to do that because I've not yet learned how to cut with a rotary cutter around curves. Though I know it's possible, but so that's piece A done. And then we go on to the next piece. So as you can see, this one has the dotted line and it's got the solid line. Make sure you cut on the dotted line and not the solid one. Please, if you have any questions or anything, please do not hesitate to ask. I will get to all the questions, although my screen is a bit far away from me. I'm sure somebody would nudge me if it's something that I need to answer, and I'll try and give you an answer. If not, I would reply you once we're done that. So that's the second piece cut out, and then we've got the very final one. So those are all the pieces cut. And on the pieces, the ones on the page A to page 11 to 13, which is the piece A, it's got the top, the middle, and the bottom. So those are what we're going to put together. So we take the middle, place it right over the gap between the dotted lines and the solid line, and then tape it down. Okay. And then you do the same thing with the one that says 8 up, and you just sorry, I enjoy doing this. I don't know why, but I keep losing. Actually, I can make life easier for myself and just use this one. Okay, so that's our pattern cut out, and we're going to need this for the main pattern body, and we're going to need it for the mesh as well. Figure out what everybody's saying. Okay, apparently I don't have Messenger installed on that phone, so, and my laptop is a bit far from me and I can't see a thing. But hello everybody that's joined us, and we've already started. So now that we have the pattern, and if you look on page 2 of the instructions, you will see that it has all the measurements for the different parts of the pattern we need to cut. And because this one has a curve all around it, I guess that's why it's a lot easier just to sort of print this one out as opposed to all the other ones. So today I've chosen again to use African wax fabric combined with regular cotton fabric. So today it's going to be this one. This one, because apart from all the sewing notions and things it has on, I just like the fact that it has bright colors as well. So the bright colors on this one sort of match the ones on that one. So we're going to start with cutting out the very first pattern, which is the very first piece of the pattern, which is piece A, and we would need 2 of that in the outer fabric. So to do that, not sure if you remember in the last sew along we had, I mentioned that I like doing things the easy way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut both 2 pieces that I need for the outer. I'm going to cut them all at once. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the pattern field. It says on the fold there. So that is going to stay on the fold. Then I'll pin it all round and then just cut round it. Actually, just a second. So that would give me one, yeah. So at the moment, I'm just pinning everything, the pattern in place before I start cutting. Okay. So once that has been done, all I need to do is just cut all the way, well, yeah, round that way. And I always use a ruler, steel straight ruler, if I can get to it. And the rest of it I just cut out with a pair of scissors around the curves. So all I have to do is just snip that in the middle, and that would give me my the which I needed just two of. So that's that, and I will cut that. And what I do is I tick it off my list, say it's been cut. I have to do the same thing for the lining, but before we get there, we need to cut B as well, which on your instruction sheet should tell you what the size is, which are the zip gussets. So we're going to cut that out as well. And you can either use the pattern that's attached at the back of the whole. If you print every single thing out and you're using the pattern pieces printed at the back of the pattern, it's all you have to do is piece all the pieces together to get the length you want, and then use that to cut out what you need. But if you're rotary cutting like me, then the measurements you need are already on the pattern, so you can use that measurement to cut out whatever you want. So we're going to do that now. And for that, so like I said, we're cutting out B, which is the zip gusset, and it's quite long. So first I'm going to straighten my fabric. I'm just making sure that my measurements are accurate before I cut through it. So that's one, and we're going to need 2 of the zip gussets as well. So that's 1. Because of the length, that's definitely a 1. And then so those are the zip gussets, which I will trim down to the exact measurements once I've cut out the interfacing. And then I tick that off on my. Then the next one is the C, which is the base gusset, and it does say in the pattern to use faux leather, which well, I haven't actually used leather on my machine, faux or otherwise, so I'm going to stick with the regular fabric, and I'm going to use Decoville as the stabilizer on there, so that should give it like the same effect. But please go ahead and cut out the C, the base gusset, in faux leather if you have faux leather, and if you're confident using faux leather as well. So that's going to be. So this one is going to be just the one piece. So that's one of those. And that's it done for all the outers. So all the outer pieces have now been cut. This is one of the patterns that I've made of Mrs. H's that I don't have to count all of the alphabets to get it done. So in my opinion, hopefully it should all go nice and fast. Once we start sewing though, because this is the part that takes the longest bit, preparing, getting every single thing ready. So the next thing we're going to go on to is the lining. And with the lining is the lining fabric we need to cut 2 of those. And with this one as well. Let's turn it this way. Because it's directional fabric, I'm just going to cut a bit of this one out before I actually do the cutting to make it easier to cut. And just like the other one, I place the fold line on the fold, pin it all together, pin it in place, and then snip all across it. And once I've done this, I'm going to just take a minute to move closer to my laptop so I can see some of the messages, because right now it's just so tiny and I can't really see much. Oh, actually, we can use this. So that's the lining fabric cut times 2. So lining fabric cut, that's for A, and then we'll get all the other ones all sorted. So okay, I'm just trying to read through. Hi Catherine, hi Joy, hi everybody that's online and that I cannot see your messages. Okay, hi Jill, hi Helen. Joy, I'm making the machine bag. Thank you. You love the colors of my fabric. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to go back and continue cutting out the other bits and pieces of the lining fabric. So that has been done. The very first piece A has been done. So we're going to go on to B, which is the zip gusset. And this one is a bit, yeah, it's going to go this way as well, so that's fine. So I'm just going to cut out twice the same amount as I cut out for the main fabric. Okay, so that's one. And with the main fabric, I'm going to trim it down to the exact size once all the interfacing has been cut and once everything has been cut. So those are the zip gussets, the lining done as well. And then for the base gusset as well, where I'm using my fabric and Decoville as opposed to faux leather. But the lining should be cotton fabric anyway, so that's fine. Whatever your lining fabric is, that's great for that. full length and a bit. Okay, so I'll just do that, and that should take care of it, no matter what it ends up being. So that's C cut out in the lining fabric, and then we go on to so we've cut out every single thing that has to be with the outer and the lining fabric. Like I said before, this is the pattern with the shortest number of pieces where I have to alphabetize on Mrs. H's pattern that I have done. So there are only 5, A to E, and I was really like, yes. So we've done A, B, C, which are the main ones. So A, B, C are done. So now we're going to go to the interfacing. We're done with the fabrics completely now. And we're still for the mesh later. So now we're going to start with the interfacing, and we're going to need, but don't worry, I think I have a whole roll hiding somewhere there in the corner, so we're fine. So with the interfacing, we need the very main panels of the machine bag. We need 4 of those, so 2 for the lining and 2 for the main fabric. So we have to cut out those ones as well. So we need 4 of those. Okay, to save time, and because I can be a lazy bagger at times, I'm just going to fold my interfacing in half lengthwise and attach my pattern piece to it and cut it 2 at a time, although I can cut it 4 at a time. Actually, I can do that. So then I cut all 4 at the same time instead of having to do it 1 at a time. But please go ahead and use whatever method works for you. I just sort of, I don't know if it's because of my quilting background, but I just whack every single thing on top of each other and I just cut them, and it seems to fall into place. I don't know how, but it just seems to. So this would cut 2, and then I would cut another 2. So pinning them all down, so it's easier for me to cut round the pattern. And my trusty rotary cutter for cutting straight lines, or well, paper mainly anyway. So just place my ruler on and cut. And now that did not cut. Okay, you did. And the rest of it I finish off with just around the curves, because those bits can be a bit tricky. And I'll just snip down the middle there to separate them when I'm ready to move on. So that's 2. So that's 1 and 2. And then I need another 2. Now, these excess bits are not going to go to waste because I'm going to need them for the gussets as well. So this should be about the exact size I need for the gussets anyway. So cutting them this way, I'm not really wasting the interfacing, because sometimes I always think, that's a bit of a waste. But by the time I put every single thing together, it all sorts of works out. So I'm not sure how many of you were with me when I did the book bag last month. That was the first time I actually did a bag with a gusset, because I've always run away from them. I just have never thought I would enjoy making one. But here I am making 2 on the trot, so there must be something to it. Okay, just a bit shot downwards. And voila. C'est fait. Okay, so we pin down again and we cut. So it's going to be straight cuts and then curves with the scissors. Pencil, actually could have gone there. So I have my 4 interfacing all cut out and ticked off on my list. So I'm still going to need that to cut the foam interfacing as well. It says heavy stabilizer on the pattern, but please feel free to use a foam stabilizer if that's what you've got. It will equally work very well. And then we need 4. Yeah, we need 4 of the B as well. So if you have the pattern B printed out and all stuck together, just use that to cut out your interfacing as well. But because I just cut based on the measurements, I'm just going to repeat that here. I've only folded this over because it's so long, and I don't think I have a ruler that's long enough to cut that out, so that's the only reason why it's folded over. But I have an idea of what the length is now, and then I just trim it down to whatever it's meant to be. All my interfaces, any interfacing I need to cut out, I make sure I cut it to the exact pattern, to whatever it says exactly on the pattern, because it does make it easier once you iron it onto the fabric. It makes it easier for you to see where the excesses are on the fabric and just to trim those if necessary. So these would be the exact size, as opposed to the fabric that I can still play around with. So that's yep. So that's one. Okay, and then we cut to size, exact size there. So that's two, and another 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 to go. Now I know that would not give me the length I want, so and perfect. Okay. Stay. My interfacing is making a run for it. So that's 3, and then the very last one on this side. And you see that takes care of the bits where I left when I folded over, when cutting out the main pieces. So it's really worked well. And 4. So that edge must be nice and straight now. Just cut that to size. So those are the 4 pieces of interfacing I need for the B piece, which are the zip gussets. So I've cut out the 4 medium weight interfacing for those. Then I need 3 medium weight interfacing for piece C, which is, I think that one has a reasonable. So like I said, all the measurements you need are actually in the pattern. So though it seems as if I'm just cutting nilly-willy and not thinking about it, I actually am. So make sure you cut every single thing to whatever it says on. Just 29. Okay. I'm trying to find the best way to use the fabric, the interfacing. So that's the first one cut, and it's not such a big piece, but well, it's just a bit awkward to cut because there's no ruler. I don't have a ruler that is actually exactly that measurement, but we'll work through it. This is the third one. Okay, so the 3 interfacing for the base gusset, big old been cut, and I can mark them off my list. And that is everything for the interfacing. Oops. Any questions? Hi, Carol. Hi, Judith. I wish you a safe journey. Does anybody have any questions so far? Because like I said, I'm a bit far from my screen, so I have to keep nipping back to the computer to sort of figure out what's going on. But if not, I will just continue cutting, and I shall see you again in a mo when we take a short break, just for me to come and say hello to everybody again. So now we're going to move on to the foam interfacing. So this is all done. And with the foam interfacing for the pattern piece A, we're going to need 2 of those. And for pattern piece B, which are the zip gussets, we're going to need 2 as well. Yeah, because the pattern piece B is quite a long one, yeah, we're going to need quite a bit of those. And then we're going to need for pattern piece D. Yes, we're going to need, well, it's actually for C, but we cut it as a separate piece for D because the measurements are slightly different. So, foam, foam, foam. Although I'm using single-sided fusible foam, I'm not going to fuse it because Mrs. H's patterns tend to tell us to cut back the interfacing away from the seam allowance when we do that. So I would rather just pin it on, and then if I need to stitch, I'll stitch it on and then cut off all the excess bits from all around it. So that's what I will do. And I'm going to need, this goes on. Now, because it is foam, and chances of me getting it over on, actually no, it's this way. So the fold is going to be on this side. Chances of me being able to sort of fold this, the foam interfacing over, is going to be very slim. So I'm just going to go by marking the foam itself and then cutting round it. So what I'm going to do is, I hope this cuts through all the layers, because no, it doesn't like it. The blade at some point. So there. Even if you don't get the foam perfect, as in if it's just a few sort of maybe about a quarter of an inch or something short. That should be fine, because remember, we're still going to trim it away from the seam allowance once we start to put every single thing together. So just bear that in mind, that even if it's not perfect, we're still going to reduce the bulk somewhere along the way, so that's okay. And I'm only pinning this so I can get the corners, but technically I should not need to. Let's see if I can trick it into thinking. It actually works, so if you want to, you might, yeah. It's just that because of the thickness, it's like, I'm worried that my rotary cutters won't go through all the 2 layers, but that seems to have worked okay since I'm snipping it off with a pair of scissors. And that is cut. And just to make things a bit easier, I'm just going to use this to cut the next one. And like I said, anything that's excess or anything that's sort of protruding out of the main fabric, once it's placed on, I will just that off with I'll just trim that off when I get to that stage. So right now that should be fine. Okay, so that's 2 cut. So that's 2 form interfacing for A piece, pattern piece A. So that has been done, and then we now need 2 form interfacing for pattern piece B, which is the long one, really long one, and that's just a teensy weensy bit short of 5 inches, but this I would have to do the proper way, and I'll just mark it down, and I only need 2 of those, so So that's one. And I'll trim that down because I know I have some excess at the end of it. But, and that's two. So that and that should give me the exact length that I want. Should be right about there. Okay, so that's the two. That's the two form interfacing for the zip gussets. Then the last one we're going to cut is the ones for the base gusset as well, which is slightly smaller than the C piece, so which is why it's being cut separately. It's not the same length as those ones. So if you're using the pattern piece for C, the base gusset stabilizer is smaller, which is why you have a different pattern for it. So I'll just cut that out as well. You need two of those. Okay, so those are the two pieces. Cut, foam interfacing. Everything looks a right mess at that side, and it's like, I'm not even going there yet. Foam interfacing by two. Ah, yes, and I did say I was going to use Decoville for the C. Instead of using faux leather, just faux leather, I was going to use regular fabric and then Decoville with it. So I have to cut out the Decoville I'm going to need. But if you've already cut out your faux leather or whatever you want to use for your base, then you don't have to follow this step. But because I'm using something slightly different, please go ahead and have a cup of tea, have a biscuit or something while I cut out just one. piece of paper does not like me today. Okay. And I believe we are done with all the major cutting and everything. Now we need to cut the mesh, which is under here somewhere. Oh my god. Okay, so the pattern does say on the first page that we need yep. So apart from fabric, the outer fabric, the lining fabric, foam stabilizer, faux leather for the base if you're using faux leather, we need and then the interfacing, we need cotton webbing for the bag handles, and zip up, zip, 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 zip. It's a very, very long one, so it's first 1 inch of zip that we're going to need with twin pulls. Then we need the mesh, fold over elastic, and we need a core board as well, and feet. Bag feet, if you would like to use bag feet as well. So I've got a few in there as well. And that's the core board, which I just happened to find from when my son used to do some work in primary school. Though he's in secondary school now, well, almost uni. Hi Moira. Hi Dorothy Jane. Hi everybody. Does anybody have any questions as I move on to the next bit of what it's doing? And I'm close to my laptop so I can see all your questions. I'm half blind anyway, so but I'm trying. And by tomorrow I will have Messenger installed on my phone, so I'm going to be near it and easier to sort of communicate with you, because everything is now on my I know it is huge. I think it's 100 meters. So yes, it is massive. And I have a whole box full of the number 3s as well, but we won't go into that for now. So okay, if there are no questions, I'll just go back and carry on cutting out the bits and pieces, and then after that we'll go on to ironing and stuff. Iron the interfaces on and all. So the next bit we're going to do is, it took me a while to figure out what the length of the elastic was. I knew it was mentioned in the pattern piece, but I just thought it was going to be in the body of the pattern as well, but it wasn't, which is fine. But I sourced it out. So it's whatever it states on the very first page, which is 13.5 inches. That's what we're going to need. So bear that in mind if I forget and I don't mention it again. But the fold over elastic is going to be 13.5 inches. So I'm going to start off by cutting the mesh pocket, which is that one. And I just want to make sure I have all my pieces all sorted out. So make sure when you're cutting that you cut on the stretch side. So the stretch is side to side like that and not like that. So it is stretchy from side to side. Oh God, my bag is going to look like a rainbow when it's done, but that's me. So we need now to cut out the mesh pocket, we're still going to need the same pattern, this one that says A. And all we have to do is there's a line. My printer prints everything out in green for the time being. Why? I know, but I'm not ready to fight with it right now. So in my line, it shows like sort of green, but yours might show red if you've printed it out in color. If you printed it out in black and white, which I would have done anyway, it would be a black line. But after the top, the one that says A top, on the middle part, there should be a line right at the top. And you and remember, it's still going to be on the fold. So please don't forget that it's still going to be cut out on the fold. So just fold down the top bit so that the part that says A top, and part of the middle one that says A middle is folded backwards. Now, I would advise you not to snip it off, because if you plan to reuse the pattern, then you can still just reuse it, because once you snip it off, then you would have to print out another one. I'm trying to save the trees, not really, but it's a good excuse. So make sure it's on the fold, and that's the fold line there. Okay, and if I can find my pins, I shall pin that down and probably use a pair of scissors. I'll see how it goes anyway once it's been pinned down. Looking good. Just one more for luck. Okay, we can do this. Where's my trusty little inch ruler? So like all the other stuff I've cut so far, straight line, snip, snip. And straight line, snip, snip. And if you're cutting it this way, you're using a rotary cutter, please do not snip into the pattern, because it's easily done. And I can just see myself cutting through the pattern as soon as I've said that. I didn't. So okie dokes. So we only need one mesh, and that has been cut. So we should be done with that mesh. Use pattern, yeah. And then for the elastic, like I said, it says on the pattern how much of it we need. So I'm just going to cut that out. Where is my trusty old quilting ruler? When you're cutting that out, so it does stretch and everything. Don't stretch it out before you cut it. Just to make sure it's all nice and relaxed, as in no stretching, no nothing. And then cut out the amount that you need based on that. And it's going to be smaller than the mesh because it's going to be added to the top of the mesh. It is going to be smaller than the mesh, but that's what we're trying to achieve anyway, because it's going to scrunch up like a scrunchie. Like the top is just going to scrunch up, nicely when it's all done. So don't worry about the fact that it's a bit shorter. That is the effect we're trying to achieve. So I've colored that nicely in black. And snip. So that would end up going over that. You can see the difference, but it all works. Trust me, I've read through and I know it works. So we've done the elastic as well. I just want to make sure that every single thing has been cut out. And yes, and then the zipper, it says on there as well. It's not on my list, that's why I didn't remember it. But the zipper, it says 41, no. Yes, 41 inches of the zipper, and 3/3 of a yard of 3 meters of the cotton webbing, which also makes sense. Yeah, you might think, oh, it's a lot, but when you think of the fact that it's going all the way around the bag, yeah, it goes round, yeah, from that, and then the other side. Yes, you will need about that much, so we're going to be cutting that out as well. And the tape rule is exactly 3 meters, so okay, so that's our those are the, well, that's the bag handle, which is going to be sort of like separated into two. And then we need to cut out the zipper, which is 41 inches. So that's 41 inches. And double zip holes. Okay, so these I shall be fitting at some point. And then the core board, the foam core board, it says to cut 16 and 16.5 by 7.75. Oh, don't lose that. Which is the length of the core board anyway, and the width will just be 7.75. Now I know I have crafting knife somewhere, but I really can't figure out exactly where it is right now, so I would have to cut it twice, but it will do. And that's the full core board required, the length required. And that should be all our pieces. And my whole sheet is marked, so I know I have all my pieces together. And if I don't, I shall just rush back and start cutting them. Whatever I miss, I'll just cut out as I go along, but it should be fine. So that's 1, 2. Okay, so we have that. We have the foam stabilizer. We have the mesh pocket. You go in my head. And the elastic that goes with it. Then we've got the foam, the base, should be, there should be two of those. And then we've got the gussets. So 2 foam stabilizers for the Zip Gusset and interfacing. 4 medium weight interfacing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 2 foam interfacing for the main panels A. That is my equivalent of the faux leather for the C base, the C, which is the base gusset. That's the bag handle. Interfacing times 4 for the main body, which I shall need to trim. So I'll put you to one side before I go ahead. These are the zip gussets, 2 lining zip gussets there. Now this is the base gusset, so all these go together as well. Yep, and you have the foam to go with that as well. And this is main piece A. So 1, 2. The foam goes on the outer fabric anyway, but I sort of put them all together so I know exactly where I am. And these are the feet. And that is the C gusset as well. Stay. And that is the zipper gusset in the outer fabric. And that is the main outer fabric, which I need to snip down the middle as well. So the 2 outer fabric, lining times 2. Two for the outer and 2 for the main. So those are all our pieces cut out and ready to go on the ironing board. So because I'm using African wax, I make sure that my iron is always set to like maybe 1 below the wool setting or 2 below the wool setting, because some African fabric are really very funny. So I'm just going to move closer to see if there are any questions I can answer or that need answering. Okay. What width of cotton webbing is used? Just a second, I'll find the answer for you. 1.5 inches of okay, oh, somebody's answered you. Yep. And yeah, so that's it. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're just going to interface every single thing together, stick on all the labels to make sure they're all in place, and then tomorrow we're going to start sewing. Like I said, this is the most taxing part of anything I have to do, cutting and interfacing. But once it's been done, it's done, and then we can all have fun and just sew and sew and sew. So we'll just go over now and start interfacing every single thing together. And it does tell you what to interface to what and what to stick to what. So it's really very good. The pattern is really, really well written and easy to follow. So we're just going to start off. So it says fuse 1 of each medium weight interface into all the 4 outer panels. So these are my 4 interfacing, and we want to fuse that to the lining panels, to the outer panels and the lining panels. Now I have to figure out which is the right side and which is the wrong side. Okay, right side, wrong side. And I give it a little iron. Please remember, when you're applying your interfacing, all you're trying to do is just melt the glue so it sticks to the fabric. So you just need gentle heats to make the glue sort of melt. Earlier today, I would never have believed I could sweat so much, but gosh, I am sweating buckets with all the lights in here. And well, anywho, today is the only day we have to do major ironing, so once this is done, it should make life a lot easier. And remember, you've got your labels as well. So as you iron them and as you know, iron the interfaces on and make sure that they're all the length you want them to be or the sizes you want them to be, please make sure you add your labels on so that when we start sewing, it's going to be a lot easier to just pick up whichever one it is we need to work with. Okay, this is so if you feel like you can share pictures of your fabric with us so we can sort of admire them with you as well, just to see the different sort of combinations we're going to end up with at the end of the day. Funny enough, when I'm making a quilt, I don't really mind ironing. I don't know why, but ironing is like, yeah, no big deal. But when it's anything else, gosh, I don't enjoy it as much. Why? I don't know, but it's just part of what needs to be done. Oops. Okay, so medium weighted facing on all four A's, and that has been done. This way. Actually, So next we're going to do the gussets. We're not skipping the fleeces for now. Fleece, come on, come on. So now we're going to the zipper. So the zip gussets, they're the really long pieces that we cut out, and just give them a quick iron. And I know this part is really boring, just having to watch somebody press and iron. But like I said, it needs to be done. So I know that my interfacing is exactly the length I want it to be. And I can see that my fabric has a bit of excess at the end. So I'm just going to trim those off, because I did know it was going to be slightly longer than the interfacing anyway. So I will trim those off at some point. So that's one. This is the side. Ouch. And then on the lining as well. And the only one next one we'll have to add, we'll have to iron on is going to be the C gusset. And that should be more or less it. Just a couple more and then it should be done. Okay, so that's B done. 1, 2, 3, 4, gusset B. And then we need to, and lining base gusset C. Oh, the lining, yeah. This is the one I will have to add Decaville to, but for the lining one, lining. Yep. Now, if you remember, we cut out 3 linings for the gusset C. 3 interfacing, sorry. We cut out 3 interfacing pieces for that particular one. But we're only going to use one of it now, and then the other 2 we will use later on. So don't worry about the fact that there might be 2 just straggling around somewhere there. They will all get used. So that's C1. So these are the other 2, and they will get used. And because I'm adding Decaville to mine, yeah, I would have to use one of them on the outer and then place the Decaville on. Okay, this is the wrong side, this is the right side. Okay, yeah. So this is where we're going to have to use the other 2 interfaces. So I'll just talk you through those because I'm going to do it slightly differently. And step 3 says place 1 base gusset stabilizer D. Yeah, in the center of the outer base gusset D. Gusset C, sorry. So your outer base gusset C should be the faux leather, and then lay one piece of medium weight interfacing over the base gusset C, and then the other interfacing over it. No, I got that wrong. Just a second. Yeah. And then okay. Because we're using leather, the leather thingy, you're using faux leather. So what we do is we put the foam stabilizer. If you're using the faux leather, place the foam stabilizer on the C, on the base gusset piece C, and then place one of the medium weight interfacings, one of them, lay it over the top, and then press it all into place. So that would form your base gusset. So it's I'm getting confused with and D, and I would have expected it all to be C, but yeah, that's why I'm getting confused. So if you're using the faux leather, you have your faux leather, then you place the base gusset stabilizer, which would be your foam stabilizer. You place it over the faux leather, and you place it right in the center. Make sure it's nice and centralized, because if you remember, it's been cut slightly smaller. So make sure it's right in the center of it. And then lay one piece of the medium weight interfacing gussets, interfacing base, over the top, and then you fuse it into place. So that's we had two left. So what you're going to do is place the interfacing over it and then fuse it into place. Now, because I am not using faux leather, I would have to have, like, I don't know, about 3 or 4 layers. So my Decoville would have to go on first to give me the weight, the same weight as the faux leather. And then you place the foam interfacing right in the middle of it. You can either measure it or fold it in half to find the center of both your faux leather or your base gusset, and then match these centers together. But I just normally eyeball them because eyeballing is fine. And then your interfacing you place right over the top of all of that, and then you press it all in place. So your foam interfacing is in between your faux leather. The foam interfacing is in between your faux leather and your medium weight interfacing. And if you think of it of the fact, like your machine, this is going to be the base of your machine. You would understand why it has, so much structure to it, and it's just not just a piece of fabric or just anything, because your machine would actually be it's going to be bearing the whole weight of your machine once it's placed into the bag. So that's why it's got all these extra layers all together. And then same goes for the lining as well. If you're using faux leather and you're pressing the interfacing on, it says to use a pressing cloth, but like I said, I'm not using faux leather, and it's just regular fabric, so I haven't used a pressing cloth. But please do remember to use a pressing cloth when you're using attaching the interfacing and the foam stabilizer to the base of your outer fabric, because it's not regular fabric, it's leather or faux leather or whatever it is you decide to use. And we're just going to do the same thing with the lining gusset as well. And this one is, well, fabric, so a lot easier to work with. And it's so different when you're reading it without actually following the process and just reading the pattern through, and actually following the pattern and seeing exactly what it means. It's so different. So that and that has been done. So that's the C gusset done. The outer main fabrics, remember, all we've just done so far is we've added the interfacing onto them. So now we're going to add the foam stabilizers to the outer main as well. Remember, we cut out 2. And to attach those, it's like placing them on the outer panels. Mentioned that earlier, that they will be going onto the outer panels. And once they've been placed on, what we need to do is go around them with a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, and then we trim off all the excesses. Now, because I wasn't planning on using the sewing machine today at all, it was just to cut out the pieces and iron all the interfacing on. We're going to skip that step for today, and once we bring out the sewing machine and start sewing tomorrow, it will be one of the first things we do. But it's just only on the, actually I picked the wrong one, it's just only on the outer fabric we need to add the foam. So it goes on the outer fabric alone, and then we're going to sew around it with a 1/4 inch of a seam allowance. If you've got the time tonight and you do feel like doing that tonight, please go ahead, lay your foam interfacing on the wrong side of your outer fabric, the A panel, and 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around it, and then trim back as much as you can away from the foam, away from the seam allowance, and do them on both of them. But when we do come back tomorrow, I will quickly run through that to get that done as well. And also, if you do want to quilt the base gusset C, which is the one we did earlier, and added the foam and double interfacing and everything on, you may want to quilt that as well if you're into quilting, but if not, that's fine. And again, it will be advisable to mark the center of all of your pieces. And what I normally do to mark the center of what my pieces is that works mainly for the zip gussets, and it's so It's so easy to do. All I do is, remember, I'm still going to trim off all the excess because it's got excess on either end of it. Now, why is my interfacing coming out? Stop that. So it's got excess at both ends, so I'm going to be sort of trimming those off as well. So all I'm going to do is find the center, fold it in half. So that should, yeah, that's half. And then snip off. Within the seam allowance, not a big massive snip, but just a tiny little notch, just to show where the center is. And then I do the same thing for the top bit as well. So up here, once I've trimmed off all the excess and stuff, I fold that in half and I give it a little notch up there within the seam allowance, and I do the same thing here as well. So we're going to do that for all the 4 zip gussets, the lining piece and the outer piece. And once all of that is done, that's where we're going to stop for today. So remember, if you want to carry on and sew your foam interfacing to your outer tonight, you can do that before we start tomorrow. And if you want to quilt your base, please feel free to do that as well. I'm not quilting the base because I'm not quilting the base. Then remember to notch your zipper gussets in the middle, in the center. So if you've got excess at the ends like I do, please remember to trim off the excesses before you begin to measure the center, because if not, it's going to be wrong. So I already put that into consideration before I notched, but please do that for all 4 of them. And tomorrow we're going to come back again at 5 o'clock to continue, and then we will have the sewing machine and we will have every other thing, and it should be so much fun. So thank you so much, every single person that's joined today. And I really do appreciate your presence here today. It's really been fun having you online, and at least I've had somebody to talk to. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send messages in. If there's anything you want me to go over tomorrow, just send all your questions in or anything. And I will go through them before we actually start sewing tomorrow. So take care, everybody. Have a lovely evening. I'm sure somewhere in the States it's going to be early in the day. But thank you so much, every single person, and I do appreciate you all. Thanks, and see you tomorrow. Bye.